Things just took a turn that nobody had circled on their spring training bingo card. The kind of turn that makes you sit back, reread the quote, and mutter, "Well, that changes things," under your breath. On the very day spring training games officially begin, John Schneider stepped to the microphone and casually dropped an update that quietly but fundamentally alters the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen outlook, not just for April, but potentially for the entire season. Because buried inside an otherwise routine spring update was the sentence that landed like a brick. Jimmy Garcia will not be ready for opening day. Not might be delayed, not we'll see how it goes, 100% not ready, and not yet throwing off a mound. When I read that, I actually stopped, blinked, and went back to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. This wasn't a minor footnote. This was a pressure point being exposed in real time. Now, to be clear, this isn't panic for panic's sake. Garcia saying he feels better than last season matters. The organization choosing patience matters. We've all seen what happens when arms are rushed back too early, and last year provided enough scars to justify caution. But you can still acknowledge smart process while recognizing the problem it creates. The Blue Jays bullpen was already walking a fine line. Remove Garcia from the early season equation, and suddenly that line gets very thin very quickly. This is where the story stops being theoretical and starts being practical. Look at the names you trust and leverage right now. You feel good about Jeff Hoffman. You feel intrigued by Tyler Rogers and his physics-defying nonsense. You believe in Yadiel Rodriguez's upside. After that, you're squinting, you're hoping, you're projecting. And hope is not a bullpen strategy in the American League East. What makes this more jarring is that this development arrives just as the front office seemed content to let internal competition sort itself out. That plan might still exist on paper, but reality has a habit of laughing at paper plans. One delayed reliever doesn't end a season, but it absolutely forces your hand. And suddenly, all those conversations about needing one more arm don't sound like fan paranoia anymore. They sound like foresight. Naturally, this ripples outward. Could this open a door sooner than expected for a young arm like Ricky Tiedemann? Possibly, though the organization has been clear about managing his workload carefully. Could this push Ross Atkins back into the market, either trade or free agency? Almost certainly. And yes, it also adds another layer to the ongoing whispers around Max Scherzer, because every pitching decision now feels interconnected, like dominoes spaced just close enough to topple. If you needed a reminder that spring training is less about box scores and more about context, this is it. And speaking of context, not all the pitching news was heavy. On the other side of the ledger, there was genuine encouragement surrounding Shane Bieber. According to Schneider, Bieber isn't nearly as far behind as some feared. He's throwing out to 120 feet, progressing well, and expected to get back on a mound in the coming weeks. In a rotation that looks good on paper but fragile in practice, that matters a great deal. There's a strange balance forming here. One arm delayed, another ahead of schedule. One question mark growing darker, another starting to fade. That's spring training in a nutshell. It giveth and it taketh away, often in the same paragraph. Beyond the pitching, there's a quiet confidence emerging in how Schneider is talking about roster usage. This isn't a manager locked into rigid roles. This is someone openly watching competitiveness, situational awareness, base running instincts, and adaptability. It's less about who looks good in the mirror and more about who helps you win on a random Tuesday in July. That mindset matters, especially for the bubble players trying to carve out relevance. We also finally got our first proper look at Kazuma Okamoto in the Blue Jays uniform, and I'll say this, sometimes fit is immediate. He didn't look overwhelmed, he didn't look like a visitor, he looked like someone settling in. There's still a long road ahead, but early impressions count, and his were quietly reassuring. Layer in Andrés Giménez embracing a team-first move to shortstop and the infield defense shaping up as something genuinely special, and you start to see Schneider's broader vision. This team isn't built to bludgeon opponents every night. It's built to pressure them, suffocate them, and capitalize on mistakes. Defense, versatility, pitching depth, that's the blueprint. But blueprints still need materials, and right now the bullpen cupboard looks a little lighter than planned. That's why this update matters. That's why it changes the conversation. And that's why spring training, even on day one, can already feel like a chess match rather than an exhibition. If you're excited that baseball is truly back, and if you enjoy unpacking these moments beyond the headlines, hit like, share this with another Jays fan who's already overthinking March decisions, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report. We're just getting started. The games are finally here, and I've got a feeling this spring is going to keep us talking.